Hey guys, last thing for solving equations, we're going to look at multi-step. Okay, here's the cool thing about multi-steps is that we're going to have to do two main things: combine like terms and use the distributive property. But as soon as we do both of those, we end up with a one-step or a two-step equation, which we've already covered and should know how to do. And we know how to combine like terms. We did that with expressions. And we've already covered, or you should have already covered, distributive property in a prior course. As a quick reminder, distributive property, I have it here and it's color coded. What that means is that I take A and I multiply it to B, and then I take A and I multiply it to C. So that what I end up with is A times B plus A times C. And the rules for multiplying into negative numbers apply for this too. So if there are negative signs in there, you just got to follow those rules. All right, so let's look at problem number one. I need to combine some like terms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to indicate it and I'm going to include the sign. So I'll do purple boxes around my terms that have an X, and how about some green circles around my constants. And remember, the sign goes with the term. So instead of rewriting this, what I'm going to do is just look at it. I'm going to say, okay, that's 4x plus 2x. That is 6x. And a negative 3 minus 2 is a negative 5. And that equals 2 minus x. Now this is the same premise. I need to get my x by itself. And right now I have x on both sides. So it doesn't matter which way I go. I can turn around and pull this x over to here, or I can bring the 6x over to here. Oftentimes what we're familiar with seeing is x being on the left and the number being on the right. But it doesn't matter. What I'm going to do is, I think it's easier to add. So I see that that is a negative x, so I'm going to do the opposite of it. There's a negative x there, so I'm going to add an x. Oops, and let me write that for my variables. I'll write my variables in a green. How about that? So to make that x go away on this side and to move it over to this side, I'm going to add x. Again, same premise. If I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. This simply becomes 0. So I just bring my 2 down, and this becomes 7x minus 5 equals 2. I am now at a two-step equation. Step 1, step 2. Step 1 is to add 5. Step 2 will be to divide by 7. So I will add 5. If I do it to one side, I have to do it to another. And I'm left with 7x equals 7. I will divide both sides by 7. And x will equal 1. As a reminder, whenever I add or subtract, I'm trying to make a 0. Whenever I multiply and divide, I'm trying to make a 1. And then I can take this and plug it back into my problem. Sorry, space is limited, so I'll write it over here. A negative 3 plus 4 times 1 minus 2 plus 2 times 1 equals, make sure I block it off, 2 minus 1. 2 minus 1. That's a minus 1 right there in parentheses. So that turns into a negative 3. And do my multiplication. That's 4 minus 2. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 2 equals 2 minus 1. That becomes 1. This becomes a negative 1. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1, and 2 minus 1 equals 1. That is correct. Okay, next problem. I have to combine some like terms. Both of these terms are the same, so it's just an addition problem for us to do. And I have to do the distributive property. So this becomes 8, and then I say 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times a negative 6 is a negative 12. I'm now at a two-step equation. Step 1, I want to get that variable by itself. Sorry, I should have highlighted that over here. I want to get x by itself. So I'm going to add 12. That'll get rid of the 12. In step 2, I'm going to divide by 2. So add 12. If I do it to one side, I must do it to the other. And really what this means, I'm not just canceling 12 out. I took 12 away from this side, but I'm putting it back over on this side. And that leaves me with 20 equals 2x. Divide both sides by 2. I get 10 equals x. Alright, so if you would like, pause the video and see if you can answer 3 and 4, and let's see if we get the same answers. Alright, number 3, two distributive property problems here. I have 3 times x, that is 3x. I have 3 times the negative 4, that is a negative 12, plus 4, equals a negative 4 times 3, it's a negative 12, and a negative 4 times a negative x. A negative and a negative is a positive, so plus 4x. Combine my like terms, that means doing the addition here, that turns into 3x minus 8 equals a negative 12 plus 4x. For this one, whoops, use my color. I gotta get my x on one side, right? So I'm going to choose to do it this way. I'm going to say I'm going to minus 3x, and again canceling it on this side, but I'm bringing it over to the other side. It's not just going away. This becomes 0, so I'm left with the negative 8 equals a negative 12 plus x. Now I'm at a one-step equation. I need to get x by itself. There's a negative 12 with it, so the opposite of a negative 12 is a positive 12. This will make 0. Did that to one side, I got to do it to another, and then I'm left with 4 equals x. And again, you can verify this, plug it in to the equation. What you end up with is 8 equals 10 minus 6, so 2 times 4, 10 equals 10. And same down here, verify this one on your own. I'm doing that just for sake of time. These problems take a little bit longer to explain. Okay, so the next problem, I'm going to highlight this right here. It's a negative 5. Remember, that term, that sign goes with that term. So what I'm actually doing is saying a negative 5 times 3 is a negative 15, and a negative 5 times x is a negative 5x. Can write it two ways. I can say a negative 5x, or I can say plus a negative 5x. It's whichever way you see it. Both of those are the same. Equals x minus 3. I need to combine these terms right here. It becomes a negative 39. And I'll write it like this: minus 5x equals x minus 3. I have x on both sides of the equation. I need to get x on one side. So I'm going to say minus x minus x. This will make a 0. I'm moving this x over to this side. This becomes 0, so I'll just drop my negative 3 down here. And this becomes a negative 39 minus 6x. I now have a two-step equation. Step 1 is going to be add 39. Step 2 will be to divide by negative 6. add 39. That becomes 0. I'm left with a negative 6x equals 36. Divide by a negative 6 on each one, and I have x equals a negative 6. Again, plug that in and be able to look at it. Okay guys, that was multi-step. And please think about it as this: I just need to combine some like terms first, or I need to do some distributive property, and I'm right back to an equation that I've already done and I know how to do. Please watch your publisher's videos, critically think and structure your homework, and good luck with the rest of your homework.